Welcome to the Nevada State Education Association's Town Hall on the impact of the COVID-19 on the state of Nevada and on our schools. My name is Brian Lee, and I am the Executive Director of NSEA. We are very happy to be joined this afternoon by the Governor of Nevada, Steve Sisolak, and the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jhone Ebert. While NSEA members across the state are still joining us, let's deal with some housekeeping. First, this town hall is being scheduled for about approximately 20 minutes. This week, NSEA has been reaching out to our members to see what questions they have for the governor and the superintendent about this crisis. We have received over 300 responses, which we have submitted to the governor's office. While we can't get to every question, we have asked a few of our member leaders to ask their questions here today. Before we hear from the governor and superintendent, I'd like to turn this program over to NSEA President Brian Rippett. Brian Rippett is a chemistry and physics teacher of 21 years from Douglas County. Hello, Brian, and welcome to the town hall.
Thank you, Brian, and thanks to all the NSEA members joining us here this afternoon. NSEA represents teachers and support professionals across the state, and we've been working to ensure a quality public education for every Nevada student for over 100 years. In our history, there have been few periods of time more challenging than the one we find ourselves in right now with the global COVID-19 pandemic. Less than a year ago, I watched my daughter Shaylee walk across the stage at Whitell High School as part of her class of 2019 graduation. Now, my second daughter, Kyla, is concerned that there will not even be a ceremony for her class of 2020. And I know of students who are completely unsure if they're going to be able to make the credits in order for them to graduate on time. Governor Sisolak issued an executive order closing all Nevada schools on March 16th and has extended school closures through the end of April. Since this time, our members have quickly transitioned, with classroom teachers now engaging students in distance learning and food service workers providing meals to families in our districts. This transition has been a difficult one. We learned only yesterday of our member working in food service in Clark County who passed away after contracting COVID-19. I want to make sure educators across the state know how much I appreciate each and every one of you who are stepping up to serve your students and your community during this crisis. Governor Sisolak, thank you so much for your work on behalf of Nevada's educators and students, and thank you for all of your efforts in the recent weeks to keep all of us Nevadans safe. And thank you also for being willing to speak directly to all of the educators across the state this afternoon. Could you begin by telling us the latest on COVID-19 in Nevada and how you've been working to address it?
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks to all of the proud members of NSEA who were able to join us this afternoon. And I look forward to giving you an update on where we stand. And for those of you who don't follow us, if you can follow us on our Facebook page, you can follow us on Twitter at GovSisolak. You can get regular updates on what we're doing, and we can disseminate the information even better to you. But I want to thank all of you, our educators, for your tireless efforts to support our students, which is the most important thing to all of us. While school buildings may be closed, but your creativity has shown no bounds at all. From developing remote lesson plans to using new technology to interact with students, to reaching students through paper correspondence, you're making every effort to reach every child, regardless of means, access to technology, ability level, or at-home support. You're jumping in whenever you can, and your positive and proactive attitude is helping all of us get through this challenging time. And we see specific examples of this on the social media pages, and we're happy when you put them up there to emphasize those and send them out on our platforms as well. I also want to have a huge shout out and thanks to Superintendent Jhone Ebert for joining us on the call. I can't say enough about Jhone. Her commitment to our students and educators is limitless. The people of Nevada are so lucky to have her. And I know when she signed on, she wasn't expecting this, but I thank every day the fact that we've got Jhone here to help us through the situation. Now I'd like to get to the subject you're most on the call to hear about, COVID-19 in Nevada. Much like the rest of the country, Nevada is facing a difficult reality today than even it was a month ago. A lot has changed and continues to change every hour of the day. but I want you to know that my passion and determination to protect and uplift our students and educators has not wavered one bit. And although times are tough right now, I want you to hear that from me directly. You are our number one priority. I also want to provide you with an update on our current situation. As you're all aware, or hopefully aware, my administration has been working day and night preparing and responding to the COVID-19 epidemic. My staff is working literally 18, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're in here trying to get a handle on everything we possibly can. Just last month, we declared a state of emergency and took several risk mitigation measures, beginning with closing K-12 school buildings and non-essential businesses, including the gaming industry, turning the lights off on the Strip. These were incredibly difficult decisions for me to make, but it's what that had to be done to protect the health and safety of all Nevadans. We also limited social gatherings to groups of less than 10 and began an aggressive social distancing and stay home for Nevada campaign that was reinforced again this week. I'm advised by my medical advisory team daily. It's made up of infectious disease specialists from around the state. They know that the only way to prevent fatalities, flatten the curve, and prevent a catastrophic overloading of our medical system is to take these drastic measures. I never imagined I'd have to make some of these decisions, and while some of these choices have broken my heart, I will stand by them because I know they were needed to be done to save lives. And there's no doubt our necessary response to this pandemic has had an unimaginable impact on our economy. So I've tried to do everything I can to help those hurting right now, to protect those who might be out of work and finding it challenging to pay their rent or mortgage. I signed a directive putting a moratorium on the vast majority of evictions and worked with the state treasurer to get most lenders to agree to a 90-day grace period on payments and late fees. We also created the Battle-Born Medical Corps and eased licensing requirements for medical professionals and medical students to ensure that we have all the help we can get on the front lines battling this crisis. And I know everybody wants to know, where's the PPE and the testing? The federal government has been sending some PPE and testing components, but nearly not enough. Fortunately, our public labs have been working in overdrive to try and create more testing opportunities for Nevada themselves. So we're lucky to have them in our state. We're literally making our own testing kits by assembling components because we haven't been able to get any from the federal government rather. And if I could give every one of you, every Nevadan, a box of PPE, I would do it. No doubt about it. But what you've seen on news is correct. The United States is facing a limited supply. But as you know, Nevadans are resilient and resourceful. So I'm asking the private sector to step up and donate, and they're coming through. Just today, the task force that we impaneled, headed by Jim Earn, announced over $10 million in funds that have been collected, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars of materials that have been donated, gloves, masks, gowns from the various properties. We've also freed up $6.5 million from the disaster relief account to get PPE to our healthcare workers on the front lines as soon as possible. Finally, you probably saw that I have activated the Nevada National Guard. That can sound scary, but I assure you, these fine men and women are just what Nevada needs right now. Like us, they care about our state because they're Nevadans themselves. Some of them are even educators, like yourselves. And next week, I'll be starting more regular updates to keep you and your families informed on everything happening related to COVID-19 in Nevada. Every day we continue to assess this rapidly developing situation to ensure we're doing everything in our power to protect Nevadans. I will continue relying on my team of medical experts to make the important decisions that can best protect the public health and save lives. And I encourage you all to stay home for Nevada.
Thank you, Governor Sisolak, for all your amazing and hard work to keep us all safe in Nevada during this crisis. I want to do a quick follow-up on your important decision to close schools through the end of April. Almost every educator that I've talked to and we've been in contact with completely supports this decision, and we've heard from over 100 members this week about when we reached out for questions on this issue. So let me ask, Mr. Governor, can you tell us a bit more about the thinking that went into the decision to close schools, and as importantly, or more importantly at this point, how you will decide to reopen?
Well, certainly. Closing our schools was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make. And in addition, for two reasons, in addition to the critical learning environment our schools provide for our students, they also serve as a place where some of our kids are provided the only meals they get in a day. I'm glad we made the decision that we did at the time that we did. We've got a couple weeks in front of this, which is definitely helping us to flatten the curve. We were ahead of most states when it came to that, and I thank all of your members for stepping up and helping to continue to educate these kids as we get through it. And fortunately, our Department of Agriculture, the school districts, and staff all around the state have stepped up to the challenge. Nearly 500,000 meals have already been delivered to our students. I'm proud, so proud of what you've been able to accomplish despite the challenging circumstances that we're facing. In the end, closing our schools was really my only option, just like it has been all around the country. I listened to my medical experts before making that decision. And just as I have for every other decision in this crisis, and with the backing of strong medical advice behind me, I made that tough call. As for reopening, that's a really tough one. I will continue to listen to our medical experts in determining what's in the best interest of our kids, our educators, and Nevadans. But what's going to ultimately determine when we reopen is this virus. And the more we can do to flatten the curve, and each and every one of your members and their families and their friends to encourage them to stay home, to separate, to practice social distancing and not gather in groups of 10 or more, and to wash your hands and sanitize them and cough into your elbow. Those are the kind of things that, believe me, are going to make an enormous difference as we move further on down the line in terms of battling this virus.
Thank you. We appreciate all of your work, Mr. Sisolak. Now, for any educators who are just joining us on the call, welcome to Nevada State Education Association's Tele-Town Hall update on the impact of COVID-19 on Nevada and our schools. My name is Brian Rippett, President of the State Education Association, NSEA. We are very grateful this afternoon to be joined by Governor Steve Sisolak and State Superintendent Jhone Ebert. NSEA has been in communication with the Nevada State Department of Education since the beginning of this crisis, and we really, truly appreciate the responsiveness of the department on numerous issues, especially ensuring funding continues to our districts and also applying for and gaining the federal waiver on student testing and assessment. Superintendent Ebert, I was hoping you could update educators on the work of the Department of Education, what we've been doing the past few weeks as we have closed schools and transitioned to distance education.
Great. Thank you, Brian, and thank your members for joining. And I also want to acknowledge Governor Sisolak and his leadership and his quick actions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in Nevada, and really to keep all of us safe. It's been amazing. So for the Nevada Department of Education, we actually started working, and I think, some people are wondering, what's been going on, but all of this work, we sent out a memo to Health and Human Services, with Health and Human Services, and guidance to school administrators and nurses, actually on February 13th. And since that time, we've been in constant contact with the governor, with his team. When the declaration was made on March 15th, we communicated immediately that week, focusing on food distribution and making sure that school districts were able to create that week, the week of March 16th, preparation for our students, their schools, how they communicate with their staffs, also giving time for teachers to come together, keeping in mind while practicing the social distancing, but coming together and to be able to prepare learning at home, whether that learning at home is using a device or it is using paper, but we still had the connection with our students. We also leaned in on our existing policies around distance education and attendance that we've had in place for over a decade. And our expectation under these emergency programs of distance education is one teacher, one student, at least once a week. And what that means is that each student would be contacted and has connection with their teacher, with an adult, no less than once per week. And during these times, these extremely challenging times for all of us, it's important to remain connected with our students and with each other, because we know, as the governor noted as well, school is, for some people, the only place where they feel the safest. And so, that was really important that caring adults, that we had those connections. Other quick updates that I would point to, within the hour when the U.S. Department of Education made available the waiver for assessments, I signed it, submitted it to the U.S. Department of Education, and they returned that day accepting our waiver. So the Smarter Balanced assessments will not continue for this school year, nor the accountability determinations for schools. We're actually carrying over designations from this school year. The governor then also suspended the state assessment requirements for end of course exams. And this week, actually earlier today, let me back up. The last few weeks, I've been working with a subcommittee made up of superintendents, district leaders, teachers, counselors, putting out guidance in relationship to the graduation requirements. And that went out to all schools earlier today. So we continue to work nonstop on providing support to all of you, students, educators, all of the people that we serve on a daily basis. And I want to thank you and your membership for helping us to continue to make sure that people are engaged and that they have accurate and the most up-to-date information to make important decisions for our students.
You're very welcome. And on behalf of educators across the state, I want to thank you again for all of your hard work. It's time for a few questions now. Let's go ahead and hear from the president of NEA of Southern Nevada, Vicki Kreidel, who is a teacher at Hurd Elementary School. Vic?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. The sudden transition, and this question is particularly to Superintendent Ebert. The sudden transition to distance learning has been difficult for many of us. We are all struggling through the layers of inequity with our families, especially in regards to available technology and home supports for our students. The special population access is a whole other issue. Complicating this even more is the social and emotional toll this is having on educators and many students and families. Given these challenges, how do educators access appropriate support, manage expectations, and still return the autonomy of teaching back to the teachers?
So thank you for that question, and thank you for your leadership. It's nice to be able to spend time with you when I was down there in Clark County, and I know how passionate you are, and I hear it in your voice just now. So, we know that the circumstances that we face are extremely challenging, and they're not ideal. But what we do know that through the efforts that you and the teachers have been leading, the creativity that I've seen from our teachers on how to stay connected between and among each other, as well as the students, has been nothing but phenomenal. We're especially sensitive to students with disabilities, to your question, and making efforts to provide special education and related services to students with disabilities in accordance with their IEPs, and for students entitled, all of our students entitled to free and appropriate education. We need to make sure that we maintain consistency within how we're, providing the distance right now. So there have been federal guidance that has come down that we've shared out, but due to the school closures, what I would share with you right now in this short amount of time is that those IEPs and school teams and parents need to be engaged and work collaboratively and creatively to consider how to support our students with IEPs. I guess I'll just end with the social emotional component of all of this, with teachers, with our support staff, with our administrators, that we all need to model our own coping skills and make sure that we have space that we're talking and communicating what our needs are, and I will continue to do that with your association.
Thank you, Superintendent Ebert, for your frank and honest answers here. Our next question is from Jan Giles, Interim President of the Education Support Employees Association. Jan?
Hi, thank you for speaking with us. Many education support professionals are 9 or 10-month employees and work another job during the summer. Will they be eligible for unemployment during this time? And also, on the heels of losing the first CCSD food service worker yesterday to coronavirus, I want to acknowledge that we are proud of our food service workers who are providing an essential service to our families right now. And I'd like to ask, how are you determining, or how are schools determining what are essential employees? We have others that are reporting back to work, like groundskeepers, and how are they considered essential?
Thank you, Jan, for the question. Let me begin with this. The second directive, education directive that I issued was 005. And in there, it states that all education staff, administrators, educators, and all other staff must continue to provide vital services and distance education to students, and staff will continue to be paid. Jhone and I have discussed this and are absolutely committed that our students must continue their education during this crisis. This is not an extended spring break. I cannot imagine how I would look students and parents in the eye when this is over if we abandon them during these most difficult times. Granted, we're counting on the most innovative and challenging new methods to come forward from each and every one of you. We need an all-hands-on-deck approach and availability to support that effort because we are truly in uncharted territory. Under that directive, 005, superintendents have the authority and flexibility to reassign staff to other duties, other instructional needs of children, or ways to support the district, the children, and the families while teachers are working with students daily to provide educational opportunities at a distance. Some work can be done from home. Other work to keep social distancing functioning may still need on-site under strict social distancing guidelines and protocols. How this looks will vary from district to district across our state. Every district is different. I'm confident that our dedicated superintendents across the state, and I've spoken to every one of them, are working with their educators and staff to find the best, most innovative methods of continuing to serve and educate students and make sure they have functioning buildings to return to when this is over. Most importantly, I have no doubt that when they're making these decisions, the health and safety of not only their students, but also their educational staffs are their number one priorities, just as it is for Jhone and me. These are not easy times for anyone. There is no manual. There's nothing we could have read to prepare us for this. We have incredible talent in our districts in the Nevada Department of Education, and we must together use all the talents and resources to work for the students and get us through this crisis situation. And we will get through this. As to employment this summer, this crisis continues to evolve. I don't know today what the conditions or job opportunities will be at the summer. We're going to have to address it later on down the line. So I hope that answered your question, Jan.
All right. Thank you. Our final question is from Phil Kaiser, he's our government relations chair at NSEA and also a teacher at McQueen High School in Reno. Phil?
Yes, thank you. Governor Sisolak, we appreciate what you've done to take care of the health and safety of Nevadans. At the same time, we are concerned about the impact that this crisis will have on the state and school district budgets. Do you have any early budget projections and what they may mean for school funding this biennium or next, and possibility that we could be dealing with educator furloughs or layoffs?
Well, that's a good one. I'll be honest with you. I have a lot of sleepless nights over this. One thing I don't get much of anymore is sleep, and this has weighed heavily on my mind for weeks already as it relates to our budgets. Some of you might have heard today we sent a letter to all our leaders in state government informing them that I directed the governor's finance office to ask state agencies to look at their budgets now and begin making recommendations for budget reserves, both through the end of this fiscal year and fiscal year 2021. The goal will be a thoughtful, surgical approach. It won't be across-the-board percentage cuts, but we need to start looking now. Any cuts that we make will be made with an eye towards prioritizing state resources that will protect the health and safety of Nevadans and provide tools for those on the front lines of the COVID-19 response. The state is no different than most Nevadans who are having to make difficult budget decisions during this unexpected economic crisis. This request was particularly hard for me as we have just started. To make the process of empowering the agencies to begin the hard work of building the government that we had envisioned, one centered around the needs of children, families, and communities in Nevada. And education was a key part of that plan. Unfortunately for all of us, some of those efforts will have to be put on hold temporarily as we now face a new reality. But I have no doubt the leaders in my administration will rise to the challenge, and with your help and your support, we'll come out stronger on the other side. So I hope that got Phil the meat of your question.
Yes, thank you so much, Governor, and we appreciate your honesty and candor on all these issues and questions. We are a little bit over time right now, so we've come to the end of our amount of time that we have Governor Steve Sisolak and Jhone Ebert. Thank you so much to the both of you for joining us on this telephone town hall this afternoon.
Thank you.
There are many.
I'm going to interrupt you, guys, but I just want to make one more plea there. You are our front lines and demand a tremendous amount of respect from our citizenry, from everybody that's in Nevada. You're the folks that they look up to. The only way we're going to be able to stop the spread of this virus and to keep Nevadans alive is to stop the spread of the virus. There is no magic bullet. There's no super califragilistic treatment that goes through here. This is just going to take everyday citizens following the protocols that we set up. I mean, like I say, that social distancing, washing your hands, avoiding groups, complying with the 6-foot rule that we've implemented. If you can encourage people to do this, and we can just get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more % compliance with that, it would go a long, long way. It's frustrating for me when I come in and I see 8 kids on a basketball court at one of our schools playing basketball, and they're not following social distancing. That's very frustrating because and I've stressed this, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your mom, your grandpa, your next door neighbor or something. We can make a difference. The only way this virus can spread is if we help it. So I really need your help in getting the word out to every single person in Nevada that follow the guidelines that we've set forth, and please, please stay home for Nevada. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you so much, Governor Sisolak. And as he said, everyone, please stay home for Nevada and have the best weekend you possibly can.